Welcome everybody. My name is Mackenzie and I have Shay with me right now. We're really excited to be doing this webinar with you guys. Before we get started, I do have some cedar medicine. And so I'm just going to light a little bit of a smudge and give prayers and thoughts to everybody's affected right now by the pandemic, but especially give some prayers and some thoughts to those who are really struggling during this time, and just ask the Creator for some guidance and some help during this time for everybody. Right, and I just offer it all to you guys too. Perfect, and we are good to go. So thank you again, everybody, for joining today. We're going to be doing a webinar on using online platforms for your tourism business, specifically focused for Indigenous and rural communities. Joining us today, so I mentioned it, there we go. Joining us today is, I'm here, and my name is Mackenzie Brown. I work with Edmonton Tourism as their Indigenous Tourism Development Specialist.
And my name is Shay Bird. I'm the Executive Director for Indigenous Tourism Alberta.
Yeah, so throughout this webinar, Shay and I will kind of be taking turns on how to use different online platforms, what we see the tourism industry doing right now amidst the pandemic, how to shift your business, and some different resources from both Edmonton Tourism as well as Indigenous Tourism Alberta to help you along. Because this is a partnered webinar, some of the things that I say, I'm coming from a standpoint from Edmonton Tourism, and the things that Shay is saying, he's coming from a standpoint from Indigenous Tourism Alberta. So we just want to make that that distinction pretty clear so that we're not confusing people.
Yeah, as Mackenzie said, there's going to be a lot of overlap that can support all of our members, but there's going to be certain support systems in place for us provincially and also Edmonton Tourism that are a little bit separate. So if there's any need for questions, just put in the comment box at the bottom and we can address that, so to clarify anything as needed. So the agenda today is, we first want to just look at the current landscape of the COVID epidemic, how that's affecting our businesses, our industry as a whole, and then speak a little bit on how we can shift our businesses to maintain engagement, maintain that marketing, that top of mind awareness, and then really set ourselves up for success once we get past this and business goes back on to business as usual. We're going to explore some technology platforms that can be used to enhance your business and to do exactly what I was just saying, keeping your clientele engaged, how you can find additional clientele, so when people can travel again, that you've already sparked that interest in that dream stage. And then also just some tips on how to really utilize these platforms to best suit your business and to best get your message across to your clientele. And then we will end with some questions. So if anyone has any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to just type them in the text box at the bottom there, and we will get to all the questions at the very end. So the current landscape that we're going through, everyone is affected by this in some way. We're seeing obviously huge impacts from a provincial level, both from our membership base, international traveler visitation, how they've shut down borders and travel as a whole. It's really at a standstill. And then obviously at a smaller regional level, like within the Edmonton region or the Calgary region, those type of things. So everyone is going through this, and I think we have to keep in mind that these are challenging times, but we are all going through this. We have the support systems in place to help each other and uplift each other. So I asked, as we go through this workshop, just keep in mind how certain things might be able to benefit your business specifically, because just because one aspect might really benefit your business, it doesn't mean it would benefit every business. So really think about how you can use the tools and the information that are being provided to benefit your specific business and to your clientele. We're also going to talk about some major shifts in routines. You know, like we're going from majority of people working at office to now you're working at home. Maybe you have kids at home. Maybe your hours are a little bit different or more sporadic, or you're missing that routine that makes things a little bit more simple throughout the day. So, you know, finding ways to really adjust to your new routine and to make it work for you is very important for moving forward. And this is a transition period for many, you know, especially on a shoulder season where this isn't our main season for a lot of our operators throughout the province and in our Edmonton region. So how do you manage that shoulder season and just that transition into the current environment that we're living in now? Some of the observations that we've made is, you know, there's either less privacy or more privacy, generally in like your workspace, for example. So, you know, going from a home office or going from an office where you have a lot of different individuals, a lot of support systems, maybe it's more your personal office, or maybe it's an open work concept where you're continuously bouncing ideas. Like, you know, these are changes to your work structure that can have a significant impact on how you do business. So looking for tools on how can you create a similar work experience to really get the best out of your business throughout these times. We're seeing less interactions by face-to-face with others. You know, obviously there's a lot of negative sides of that from the social aspect, you know, but we're also seeing a lot of positives as well in terms of people looking outside the box to find ways to continue that interaction, whether that's through webinars or through video chat. So you're just thinking about how we can do things a little bit differently to engage that social muscle, and then also engage your clientele, your other businesses, your partners, these type of things. And people are working in their home office now because a lot of people are not able to work from their workplace. No routine or new routine, sorry. So we're looking at, you know, there's not necessarily a commute. Maybe there's time to decompress if you are finding businesses slower. So how do you use that time wisely? You know, I think it's really about taking care of yourself as well throughout this process. You know, as we mentioned before, it's not an easy thing to navigate through, and we're all in it together. So making sure that you're finding time for yourself to really just check in and make sure that you personally are healthy and you're not too stressed out. I know these are very challenging times to say that, but you know, taking care of yourself is important as well while we navigate through this. And then the distractions, there's a lot of distractions, whether it's through the news or other things that may take your mind or concentration off your tasks, you know, to get through your workday. Flexible work days and the learning curve of finding new technology and learning how to utilize that technology. And that is really the key piece of what we're trying to discuss with myself and Mackenzie on this is, you know, exploring what technological platforms are out there for our businesses, and how do we use those, and how do we kind of speed up or accelerate that learning curve, and what kind of support's out there to help us get through that process. So what are people looking for? They're still looking for that connection piece, right? You know, the social piece or that connection piece is so important right now because we can't get it in a traditional sense of face-to-face communication or face-to-face contact, right? So finding ways to create that engagement and create that connection with maybe it's our customers or our potential customers, or with our employees, you know, that's a really important thing that people are looking for. Another thing is just good news stories. I think there's a lot of negativity out there through the news and social media and those type of things on, you know, all the challenges that we're all going through right now. So people are looking for those good news stories, and that could be, you know, something very simple as, you know, sharing a traditional story of getting through a difficult time or perseverance, and maybe someone can relate to these experiences. Or it could be as simple as, having do a smudge and opening up to the world to allow it to experience that. These are all things that people are longing for right now. Learning new skills. I find with cultural tourism, it's a lot of learning, right? So finding ways to look at what your experience currently is and finding ways to engage your clientele through online platforms to give at least some type of learning experience. So for example, say you're doing a medicine walk. Obviously, we aren't able to take people and walk through the mountains and show them the certain medicines that are natural to us. But what we could do is have a handful of our medicines in front of us and talk about them through a online webinar or video, and then teach individuals where to find them, what they were traditionally used for, how to create tea with them, and why you create tea with them and their medicinal purposes, right? So this is something that you can either do from a revenue building perspective. It may not bring in the revenue that you're typically would with your walking tour, but you could create some type of revenue, or it could be just an engagement piece from the marketing perspective. And that's a really important one that we'll touch on later on. Another thing is activities for kids, activities for children. A lot of us are at home with our children right now and learning how to adapt to maintain that productivity with our work life while keeping our children occupied, right? So any type of interactive experience to educate or keep children busy, people are going to be interested in exploring those options, just so they can, keep their children busy while they're actually doing their day-to-day as well. The importance of keeping contact with past clients. So people, are, like we all know, we're kind of self-distancing, we're isolated. Reaching out to your past clients is a really key piece of maintaining that relationship and that potential moving forward for more business in the future. Another option is, offering classes online. So if you do any type of traditional class, maybe it's a culinary class or, a cultural camp or these type of things, think about how can you create a structure where you're offering something similar, but on an online platform. Or maybe it's, you add another engagement piece of, if there's certain ingredients or products that they need, you get people to sign up a week in advance, you can send them the products, and then you can do it with them through an online platform, but they actually have the products that you sent them as well. For example, like a cooking class, you could do a cooking class online with traditional ingredients, but maybe you have 5 people sign up, you send them the ingredients the week before so they have it all, and then you do that online cooking class interactively online. So it's thinking about ways outside the box to really, keep people engaged and continue that business. And again, we've said it a million times now, keeping people engaged, that's a big part of throughout this, and learning new things as well. We find in the Indigenous tourism world that a lot of our clienteles are coming to learn, right? They want to learn about the culture, the history, the geographic location, right? The luxury of the online platform is people can still learn over the internet. So you just have to get creative on how you make it meaningful and impactful for those individuals, but you can still do the process of educating and sharing those stories, right? So it's just how can we work within the framework of what we have existing to maintain these type of things for our clientele. Sorry, I have my cameras on blocking what it is. There we go. Okay. So shifting your business, we're going to think about, how do we create like a different delivery model, like if you're typically a mom and pop shop, tourism experience and you're used to people driving through, coming in and, purchasing a tour, how do you create that differently in the current world we live in? But also, how do you create it in a way that once things are settled and we're through this COVID epidemic, how do we go back to business as usual? And how do we make sure that there is a clear transition other than just completely forgetting the old way of doing things and adjusting now. But then, you know, once we're back to normal, moving forward with how things were done in the past. Reimagining how you deliver your experiences. You know, there's, you know, through these challenging times, everyone is challenged to think differently, and you might find more efficiencies in how you do things currently, or unique ways to offer your experiences that might actually be complementary to what you're already offering, right? So thinking about those type of things through this process. Thinking, this is very important. Who are you trying to reach? Like, who is your market? Because now people aren't necessarily going to be coming to you for these type of experiences online, or these education pieces, or this knowledge sharing. You are going to have to attract the people online. But the positive side of that is everyone is online. Everyone is looking for engagement because everyone is at home, self-isolated, and looking for things to do. You know, they're looking for stimulus. They're looking to learn. They're looking to share their culture. So knowing who these individuals are and how to reach them through these various social platforms or technology platforms is very important. And then thinking about, okay, you now know who these people are. What are you going to offer them? You know, what is going to translate to something that they're going to be engaged with? And then looking at any other opportunities that might come from using these online platforms.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jay. That was awesome. I'm going to take it from here for a little while, and we're going to go through some things that people are actually doing, just to get your guys' heads in some different possibilities, some different opportunities. Then from there, we'll go into the online platform part of things. Josh just messaged me saying, I recognize that sash and moccasins photo because it is from Michif Cultural Connections, that photo. So I love using that photo. So we see various different attractions doing different things at this time. We see a lot of different virtual tours, but we also see some live streaming. So like Edmonton Opera and the Shed Aquarium right now, the Edmonton Opera, they are live streaming their shows, and then the Shed Aquarium, they're live streaming their penguins going and visiting other animals, which is adorable, and everybody loves seeing that. We see virtual tours, for example, with the Art Gallery of Alberta. We see daily science activities coming out at the TELUS World of Science. Wanuskewin Heritage Park in Saskatchewan, they're doing some online beading tutorials. And we see virtual Michif classes coming out of Michif Cultural Connections. And then we also see some unique social media takeovers. For example, the Cowboy Museum, they're down in the States, but they gave their social media information to their head of security, and he is the one doing all their social media. And they're getting way more people interacting with them on social media because this guy is so funny on social media. And that's something that they would have never thought of had it been the circumstance that we're in. We also see different things coming out of solo experience providers. So we've seen a lot of tea making at home, do-it-yourself home remedies. You know, I see a lot of people teaching other people, how do you make like, how do you boil your cedar so that it makes your house smell really good? We see my friend Charmaine, who's also an entrepreneur up in Sucker Creek. She's been teaching people how to make fried bannock just by going online, going virtual. And then as Shay had mentioned, we see a lot of people doing online cooking classes, going virtual, having the recipes available online, as well as just taking people through the process of cooking too. Artisans, of course, is a huge thing as well in the Indigenous tourism space. And so we see a lot of different workshops coming out from artisans. Tiny Sunshine Beads in Edmonton, she's been doing some beading tutorials, but then we see people like Lance Cardinal, who works at Fort Edmonton Park, but also has his own business because he's a talented man. He's been doing online children's crafts every single Saturday. And even though some of these are, like Lance is doing his just for free, it's something that he's doing to keep his audience engaged keep the kids engaged, and people are loving it. You know, his videos have been shared like 300 times. It's crazy. And then we also see people doing live paintings, or doing kind of like a Bob Ross thing where they're teaching somebody how to paint. I think the beautiful thing about Indigenous tourism is that you could teach somebody how to paint certain Indigenous motifs, or maybe trees, and then talk about the story behind our trees, our grandfather trees, our spirit animals, something like that, right? Just for engagement. We're seeing a ton of music and performances going virtual and going online. We see full live concerts. And actually, if there's anybody who wants to do a live concert, I recommend reaching out to CKUA, and you can get your live concert listed on their event page, so that then other people can find your concert and go and watch it, so that then you have more engagement online. We see, my personal favorite is we're seeing live powwows and round dances and comedy shows. And that's just so cool when everybody puts things together. Even in Edmonton, there's a virtual fashion show going on right now. So every Friday, people are just posting photos of them in their regalia or in contemporary clothes, and just sharing it like that, doing an online fashion show. Then we see people like Angela Gladue, one of the dancers for Tribe Called Red. She's been doing virtual hip hop lessons, which is another very unique thing that people can do. In terms of retail, there's also a lot of people who are shifting their business so that they can sell their products online. We will have a portion of that on different online platforms a little bit later in the webinar. But we also see people doing really unique and innovative things. So we're seeing free shipping, free drop off. We're seeing people reducing their prices. We're seeing people doing drop-off activities. So Buy Sweetness is a cookie company, and they make edible markers. And so you can buy their cookies and their edible markers, they'll drop them off, and then your kids get to color on their cookies and then eat it, which is the best type of art, the stuff that you can eat. We see Try and Buy. For example, Fast Tracks Run and Ski, what they're doing is you can order some of their apparel, they'll drop it off, you have 3 days to try it on, and then put whatever you don't want to keep back in the box, they'll pick it up. So you can still have that kind of shopping experience. And we're also seeing different places making face masks. For example, Moonstone Creation, they've now like shifted so that they're selling and making face masks. Same with Luxe Ready to Wear. So people just seeing these opportunities and taking them, right? To see what they can do. Something else that I really like and I think is like very, very interesting is we see people partnering together and making partnered packages. So Yag Kit, for example, there's a couple different farmers market vendors. What they've done is they've all pooled different things, and so you can buy a parcel of different vending items in it. So that could be something that Indigenous artisans could work on together, or people who want to do crafts, you know, like making a collective and having these boxes that people can buy.
Awesome.
Already
Thank
done.
you.
I flew through that.
We're cruising through this. No, it's great. Hopefully there'll be a lot of questions. Yeah, so from a marketing perspective, you know, just a couple of things to consider. Like I put the importance on, like, who are you marketing to, right? Knowing who your best customer is. And really thinking about who was your existing clientele in the past. And maybe that clientele is going to change based on the online participation, right? Like if your clientele are people driving and they see your sign and then they stop in, you know, these people aren't driving past your website now online, right? So it's figuring out who is your best clientele, and how do you attract them and how do you engage with them? And then how do you engage with existing and older clients, right? It's you have a huge, if you've been in a couple, say you've been in operations for a couple of years, you have that database of your individuals who you've already participated with or you already have an existing relationship with. Reach out to these individuals, just see how they're doing if you have some type of relationship with them during these times, because we're all going through it, right? Rekindle that relationship and then get them involved through what you're doing online, because obviously if they've been to your experience, they're interested in the situation themselves or the experience themselves or the culture. Leverage these people to get them engaged in what you're doing online, and then have them help market your product through telling their friends and sharing through their social feeds, right? If you already have these existing relationships, it's really great, but also you might spark something new in them that they say, oh, well, I never had the opportunity to experience that last time. And then it'll help within that dream stage of individuals right now they're dreaming of what's next. What's the next vacation? When the smoke clears and we can all leave our house and run through the city holding hands and breathing on each other, what are we going to do, right? And people are thinking about where can they go? What can they experience? This is a great time to really spark these ideas of this is something that you need to do when the time comes and you can do it, right? What does your best customer want to learn or experience online? So again, figuring out what is your experience, who is that best customer, and then how are they going to interact with the experience online? And some people, it could be a language lesson. Something as simple as a language lesson for a cultural language might be a great part of that interaction piece. But maybe there needs to be something more. Maybe there needs to be some type of, for example, Instagram strategy where you have them choose which experience they want to see online, or having them be a part of the experience in some way, whether that's clicking or maybe it's giving a lesson on how to do something, but then you challenge everyone to send in their videos of them trying, and then you create some type of challenge throughout that, and then they choose a winner or something like that. Just trying to get really creative with how you engage these clients, within the framework of an online platform is really important. And it's how you're going to really not only be able to potentially increase some revenue. Again, it's most likely going to be less than your face-to-face experience. But another big piece is that just awareness piece. How do you grow the awareness, grow that need or that demand for your product? So when travel goes back to normal, individuals know hands down that's what they're spending their weekend doing. And then what platforms are they using, right? So we might be very in tune with using Instagram, for example. But if you're dealing with an older demographic, maybe it's families, are they going to be on Instagram or are they going to be on Facebook? Do you need to do some more Facebook Live experiences versus Instagram because your clientele are over the age of 60? I don't know, but that's something that you have to figure out when you're identifying who your client is, what they want to experience, and then how are you going to reach them? And then how will your market change during the COVID-19 epidemic, right? So things are going to be different. Maybe people aren't as interested in, say, mass produce or high volume travel. But the thing is, a lot of these cultural experiences that we're sharing throughout the province are small group, intimate experiences, right? So how do you leverage that? How do you leverage the fact that, people are coming in a group of 10 maybe to have this really cool experience when people can travel again, and educate people on that those are options. And then I think another aspect to think about is people travel for cultural experiences from Canada all over the world, right? So if people are already traveling, say, to New Zealand or Hawaii, Australia for these cultural experiences, how do we get the attention of those travelers? Because when people can travel, it's not going to just turn a light on and everyone can travel anywhere, right? So it'll start with, okay, now people can travel throughout Alberta and do things. And then it's, okay, people can travel throughout Canada and do things. And then, oh, okay, now the borders are open, there's more flights. But it's not going to happen overnight. So how can we attract those visitors that would be going internationally typically for these cultural experiences? How can we educate them on, you know what, you can have just as an impactful, if not more, cultural experience, you know, going to Fort McMurray or Fort Chipewyan, or, you know, staying within your province. It could be in the Rocky Mountains, but an operator that you had no idea existed, right? So really translating that message of there's cultural experiences here in our own backyard, and they're not homogenous throughout, right? You know, all the communities are very different. So making sure that messaging is coming across during that awareness piece and that dream point again. So when the smoke clears, and even if it's just travel within Canada is started again, how can you get those travelers traveling within their own backyard for these cultural experiences that they may have thought they had to leave the country to actually experience themselves? And then, do you need to change your marketing strategy? I think, you know, most of us probably have to think, if we have a marketing strategy, how did it work? Did it work well? And then how do we need to change those type of things? You know, people are going to be traveling differently. Maybe it's less air travel, more driving travel. Maybe it's more, you know, within the country for the next year at least, right? So how did we in the past market? How do we get those clientele? And then how are we going to adjust that based on the current environment? How can you make your experience interactive for the person viewing? So I've kind of touched on this already, so I won't dive too deep into that, but just thinking about interesting ways that they can touch something, or maybe they can taste something, or maybe they're a part of the experience. I know that's it's funny to say over an online platform, but just as simple as giving them the option to choose yes or no, left or right. Am I going to use blue beads, or am I going to use red beads? Or, you know, having, maybe it's a culinary cooking contest. You create a bannock, and then they feed it to their family, and then they rate it out of 10, and then everyone feeds it to their own family, and you submit your scores and see who got the most, right? It's just, you know, you have to really get creative on how individuals can be interactive with these experiences while self-distancing from their own home. And then, are you doing this for revenue, or maintaining interest and building awareness of your product while customers are dreaming of their next destination? So this is very important. You know, I think there is a huge revenue piece. You know, we are all going to be losing money from the lack of travel happening within the province, or you know, throughout the world really at this point. So we need to figure out, is this important for driving revenue to our business, or is it important to just keep the awareness of the product, or the fact that everyone's at home online? How can we utilize them being there to spread the awareness of your experiences and spread the interest of your experiences throughout the province, so that, again, when people can travel, they're now choosing to explore the Indigenous experiences throughout the province and the country, as opposed to going to New Zealand because they feel that that is the most authentic experience available to them. So I keep going to switch, and I realize it's not my end.
It's all good.
So how can you make this happen? So like I said before, you can do it for free. This is a great way of just building awareness of your product, building awareness of the experiences, and also the differences within the Indigenous communities and experiences throughout the province. You know, unfortunately, what we've seen through statistics is that, you know, everyone, both nationally and internationally, see, not everyone, but a vast majority, see Indigenous experiences as a homogenous experience throughout the country and even throughout the world. So a lot of people that think that if they've gone to an Indigenous experience in, say, Newfoundland, it'd be the same in Vancouver, it would be the same in Fort Chipewyan, it'd be the same in Lethbridge, when we all know that's simply not the case, right? So that education piece is a great a great offset that happens from doing these free experiences. Another great one is by donation. This gives individuals the flexibility of, okay, maybe if they're still working and they have the financial freedom to do so, they can actually, donate some money to the experience. But we have to remember that, a lot of people are suffering from a lack of work right now, and people may not have the financial backing where once jobs start happening again in the future, they would. You don't want to lose them completely because they don't have the ability to actually provide that financial feedback, right? So it's just something to consider. And then obviously paid is a great way to offset your revenue. If you can create an experience or a product that is the same level of revenue generating as your old business, that's fantastic. Or maybe it's going to be a percentage of what you would typically make, but it would help just pay the bills, every little piece works. Or maybe you can try and figure out how to add further incentive. So maybe they're not experiencing the experience face-to-face, but you're sending them a little gift after or something like that, and make that a part of the actual offering to increase the price point a little bit. So these are kind of 3 different aspects you can go when you're doing these type of experiences. Okay, so payment options. So some online payment options, we can look at, internet or Interact e-transfer. This is just an email process through online banking. You can look at Eventbrite, which if you're doing a special event, one-time thing, or if you want to do multiple Eventbrites for a regular occurrence, this is a great way as well. PayPal is another online banking system where you can create payments. Stripe is very similar. And then existing booking systems. So if you're using an existing booking system, obviously you want to utilize that as much as possible because you're probably still paying those monthly fees, and those are adding up if you're not, selling those tours, or you're on a commission-based one and you're seeing the impact less. Depends on what you're using, but if you have those existing booking systems, they're great to really leverage for any other products that you might be selling.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out too that Eventbrite has a donation option as well. So if you're selling Eventbrite tickets, people have the option to donate however much money they can afford to. So that's another cool thing about Eventbrite.
Awesome. Yeah, so then we look at some social options. We have Instagram. So Instagram Live is a great one. So when you're creating these experiences, having someone videotape and people can watch online in real time about the experience. It also notifies all the people following your profile when you start a live event, which is great because if you have X amount of followers on your business account and you start to go live, everyone will get that notification. If they're interested or engaged, then they'll come and view that experience. Another thing is a video can be saved on your story for 24 hours and comments show up on the screen itself. So it's great for that communication or engagement piece while you're doing it. And also, so for this, majority is going to be going through a mobile device, which is great because, a lot of people are on their social through their mobile devices, right? So if you notice that might be a bit of a trend with your clientele, or maybe you have a younger demographic, then you want to make sure you're engaging in what they're using. And a lot of people are using their online platforms, their social, all through their mobile device. Facebook Live, another one. So it's similar to Instagram Live, only some followers notified when you start a live video. You can save video and keep on your profile forever, and the comments are on the screen. So another platform is very similar. Something I would also think about is, again, just making sure you're considering your demographic. Where are they spending their time? But also with Facebook, there's certain things like maybe it's you're just using a Facebook video versus a Facebook Live, right? You can take a video later, add it on, but you know, when you're scrolling, you actually have to click on the video to get the audio. So making sure there's certain things like subtitles, if there's commentary on the video itself, so people can scroll through and just start reading versus just seeing the video itself without audio.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I personally really like using Facebook Live. I think I like it because you can do live experiences, but then, yeah, you can keep it on your profile afterwards. So it's a really good option for performers, for example. Yeah, the only thing is that you can't, for like some of our live streaming services for Instagram, Facebook, you can't really control who's viewing the video and who's not, and you can't get really like payment for it, if that makes sense. You just because you can't control who's going to have access to the video. Everybody, if they can find your profile, can have access to the video.
Awesome. Do you want to just speak on like your experience doing, so I know Mackenzie, in addition to Edmonton Tourism, you're a member of ours with Warrior Woman. Can you just talk about how you've been doing a couple of Facebook Live events, and how have you seen that translating from that to say views or followers on your Facebook page, or just the commentary? Like how are you seeing that?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so my mom and I have been doing Facebook Live videos every Sunday, and it kind of came out because originally, obviously similar to a lot of Indigenous tourism businesses, we've lost some revenue, a lot of revenue. And so originally we created a Facebook Live event so that people could donate if they wanted to through Eventbrite, and then we just did it. And then we ended up having a lot of fun and realized that actually a lot of people who didn't have access to our shows before could now view our performances. You know, we had a lot of friends across the province who couldn't physically be at our shows, but now there was the opportunity for them to. So since then, we've continued to do them, and we've just made it kind of a free thing and shifted it so that we're engaging potential visitors and like just showcasing a bit of our talent. And then when things kind of pick up again, that people can come in and see us. You know, it is a big, steep learning curve for technology. And I think even though my mom and I think we have it, we always get there and some screen isn't working properly, or there's like reverb or something like that. But, you know, I think in this era, everybody understands that, everybody knows that things through Facebook Live is a bit unpolished. And I think that that's, it's very nice. It's very humbling as well. Yeah, and then afterwards what we do is we keep it, and then on our personal Facebooks, we can just share the videos. And then other people have been sharing them too. But, you know, each week we get, like last week, I think we had like 10 shares and like 400 people watch the video, which is awesome. Because again, people want to, and we always get really nice feedback from people just because they simply enjoy seeing the performances.
Absolutely. And, you know, like you said, you know, the trials and tribulations of learning how to use it, you know, I think it's also relatable, because, you know, when things just go super smoothly throughout the process, people can kind of forget that you're a human and we're all kind of navigating
Yeah.
these waters the same way, right? So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And, you know, if it gets a couple laughs, then it's also a bonus, because I think we all kind of need a chuckle from time to time nowadays. So I think it's more important to explore the options and try it versus being more intimidated by it because you don't want to do it incorrectly. Because at the end of the day, it's a bit of a learning curve, but once you get over it, you'll figure it out. And through the trials and tribulations, you know, that's all part of it. We're all going through the same thing. So I think it's important to remember.
Yeah, everyone's in the same boat. I saw the funniest photo the other day. A CEO of a big business accidentally turned herself into a potato during her Microsoft Teams meeting and couldn't figure out how to turn herself out of a potato. You know, so even it doesn't matter how smart you are. We're all dealing with these technology things.
Yeah, exactly. All right, and Zoom meetings. So exactly like what we're doing right now, right? Zoom is a great opportunity for businesses and individuals to create a video chat platform and just to have meetings or discussions, or maybe it's a class, or maybe it's, you know, a knowledge sharing tool. But everyone can be seen in the call. Obviously, we're doing a webinar now, so it's a little bit differently, but there's a separate area for chat, which is great. And there's a time limit of 40 minutes and up to 100 people with a free account. So again, if you want to do something a little bit more extensive and you're finding there's a huge demand for it, yeah, maybe it's you sign up for that upgraded account. It'll cost you a bit, but hopefully if you're creating experience that's popular and going for that duration, you can find a way to build a little bit of revenue from that as well.
Definitely.
Then the nice thing is also you can record and save the video. So again, I find a lot of these resources are so important because, you know, we can record these type of webinars and knowledge sharing experiences, but then have them online so people can use them afterwards, right? So if you're creating a, say, webinar on medicines and the traditional uses and stuff like that, you can keep that. That's marketing material. Take little bits of it and put it on your social for later on, or, you know, when the world goes back to normal and we can travel again, you can put that on your website as a resource for people that might be kind of interested but don't really fully understand. They could see that video or watch that webinar, and that could be the hook that makes them go from on the fence to I'm definitely booking and I cannot wait, you know? So, you know, making sure that you're recording all these resources and these experiences to help market your product in the future is really important.
I'll take this one just because it is kind of like a newer program. So we've seen a Jitsi come out. So Jitsi is very similar to Zoom. Just the nice thing is that it has no time limits, no caps for attendees, and it's free. So I don't know where this came from. It just like popped up and now everybody's going crazy over Jitsi. And so it's very similar. You can send out a link, then people can sign on. The only thing is people do need Chrome to access. So you can't access if you're using like Safari or Internet Explorer. You do need to have Google Chrome on your computer, which is a bit of a barrier for some people. But the nice thing about these platforms that we're chatting about right now is because you have to send a link, it means that you can get people to purchase a ticket, and then once they purchase, then you can send them a link. If you want to do kind of like a revenue stream thing, you can do it with these services.
And then we also have Google Hangout and Microsoft Teams. So these are pretty similar. Excuse me. Google Hangout is up to 30 people per video meeting. You can do full screen presentations, mode capability, and it requires G Suite package by the presenter. So if you're already dealing with a G Suite from your business, it's a great option as well. And then Microsoft Teams is the business version of Skype. It has the ability to video and audio presentations, meetings. There's no Microsoft account required, and there's a separate area for the chat. So again, these are both great tools to do anything from like webinars to meetings to you know, knowledge sharing experiences, anything you can really think of to have those face-to-face interactions via online.
Okay, so obviously a lot of our Indigenous community members live on reserve in rural areas. And so what if you don't have good internet access? You know, it's great that we're talking about these virtual online experiences, but what if you can't actually do that because it's too laggy? So things are still online. That's primarily how we're getting our information and getting our experiences, especially with social distancing. You know, things are still going to be online, but there are things that you can do, that you can implement and share that won't take up as much internet usage as uploading a live stream video or doing a Zoom meeting. You know, there are things that you can do like pre-recording videos and then posting them later when you have a better internet access, or they can post over slow internet access. You know, like when you're sending an email and you have snail mail, you're like, it's going to take an hour to send that email, but it's going to be sent eventually. Those kind of things. You can post small clips, make a series. We see a lot of blog writing, making written posts coming out. Those are still things that you can do. And same with photo blogging even, posting a photo, telling a story about it. I wanted to mention a couple easy to use video editors for people in case they do want to create pre-recorded videos and then set them up after. Windows 10 has a photo app editor that's really great. So if you have any kind of PC computer, you can get Windows 10, or iMovie is available on Mac as well. And depending on what kind of phone you have, whatever smartphone you have, if you have an Apple phone, you have iMovie already on your Apple phone. And Android also has a photo app editor too. So I wanted to chat briefly about some tips for using technology. Doing a test run ahead of time. If you want to do an experience online or even just a live video, make sure that you're doing a test run ahead of time. Make sure that the speakers work, that people can see you, that you're not a potato, all of those different things, making sure. Being in a well-lit and quiet area. This can be difficult if you have kids, but it's really important that you are in a quiet area. And oftentimes using headphones with a microphone helps to eliminate any other noise around you. Making sure other people's mics are muted. So this is a simple thing that when you log in and you're having a little video conference with people, just asking people, hey, can you mute your mic? We'll have a chance where people can chat. But sometimes it can get overwhelming if too many people are talking at once. Making sure to speak clearly. And then being yourself and having fun. It can be difficult when you're not face-to-face and you can't quite see the visual cues of people, but still making sure that you're your authentic self and that you're having fun, because people buy your experience because of it's unique and because maybe you're the one that's doing it, right? So people want to see you doing it. People want to see the tour operator doing their experience, and so that makes it really important. I wanted to touch briefly on some resources for artisans. So again, we're seeing a lot of people doing online beading, crafting, etc. But what about selling online? This kind of falls into the retail aspect of things. So there are different platforms for selling your items online, including Instagram. Instagram has a business account where you can put the prices of your items and then people can just message you, and that's how you send it out. There's Etsy. Facebook Marketplace, or Bonanza is another platform. Bonanza is kind of for larger businesses that have a bit more product. So Etsy is probably your best bet if you're an artisan wanting to sell online. Something that's really great. Oh, I just got a message that said, oh, you should also mention Redbook. I'm not familiar with Redbook, but I'll definitely look into that as well. If you're interested in setting up an Etsy shop, what an Etsy shop is it's an artsy and crafty platform. It's a global online marketplace that supports independent creators. And if you are interested and don't know how to set up an Etsy account, there's an entire video series by the Inuit Women of Canada, and they'll take you through how to set up an Etsy account. Etsy, it's pretty minimal costs, and it's definitely the cheapest out of all of the options, other than putting things onto Facebook Marketplace. But it's cheaper than Bonanza, for example. I'm I don't quite remember the exact cost, but I think there's really just a servicing fee, and then they take care of the payment for you, and then you're the one who ships it out. People are interested in learning a bit more about Etsy. There's some Etsy collectives going on. So there's one in Edmonton as well as one in Calgary. But if you go onto Facebook, you can look up Etsy, and they're doing a like a webinar on how to set up your own Etsy account. And then they're also featuring different Etsy accounts locally in Edmonton as well as in Calgary for people to purchase things on. And then just some tips for selling your items online. We suggest taking good photos of your products, making sure that you have good lighting. You'd be amazed with how good of photos you can take just with your cell phone, but making sure that they're properly placed, they have good lighting, and then that the pricing is clearly marked on your products.
Awesome. So this is how Indigenous Tourism Alberta can further support our members at this point in time. So, we are available for online consultation for business advice, content creation advice, online product ideas. We're here to support our members, and we know that everyone is going through quite a challenging time right now. So if you need anything from us, whether it's just bouncing ideas off or you're wondering how to navigate your business through these challenging times, just reach out, send us an info email, and then I'll have a colleague of mine or myself reach out, and we'll just have that conversation of how can we further support you, and how can we kind of navigate these waters. Also, sharing content for new online products available. Obviously, we have our social channels that will continue to put all our experiences and members' experiences out over the coming months. But if you have any new product available, especially if anything online that can is done in relation to the COVID response, then please let us know, and we can push that out through all our social media. We can put it in our newsletter, because we really want to highlight the operators that are taking the initiative to change things, to make sure that they're maintaining their awareness, their marketing, their products, so we can share that with everyone that wants to know, and maybe spark that so more operators keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, we need that strong collaboration as a province to maintain that marketing, that awareness, and that product development. So we will be doing many more online educational webinars. So this is the first in partnership with Edmonton Tourism, but we'll be doing a lot individually as well. Everything from marketing to development, and those will be coming out most likely on like a bi-weekly basis, and be coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're in the process of just scheduling those out, and then once we have kind of that webinar calendar, we'll put that out through our newsletter, put that on our website. We're also creating a new consumer-facing website with a little bit more graphics and blog posts and those type of things that we can, again, showcase all our members and get their information on there front and center. So when people are dreaming of travel and what they're going to do next, that information is available there, and also drive traffic to our businesses. And then also IT is continuously working with all our provincial and federal partners to figure out additional ways to find some financial support for our market rate operators. We know that there's a huge need for some stimulus, and right now, Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada has a stimulus package that you can apply for. If you haven't already, I highly suggest going to their website and applying for that. We also have, a COVID response page on our website that will give you all the information, the various supports out there, both federally, provincially, and through tourism associations. And then Indigenous Tourism Alberta is in continuous communication on nearly a daily basis on how we can find some also internal provincial support to move forward to benefit our operators. So as of right now, there are some things in place, but there should be more in the future as well. And then, yeah, I mentioned that there's just at the bottom there, there's the COVID response page on ITA's website. You can explore that, and it's under the news section if you just go to the website without clicking the link. And that gives you an update on all the resources and support available in relation to COVID. But also we'll give you a link to ITAC's funding application. And I believe there's about 2 more weeks left for that application to open. So I highly suggest pushing that to try and get a little bit of cash flow for your business to help pay some bills and those type of things. And then it will also be updated on a regular basis as future support kind of starts to unearth, and we can use that.
Awesome. If you are in Edmonton or surrounding area, the way that Edmonton Tourism can help is right now what we're doing is we're helping creating video concepts to showcase your product. So we do have a digital specialist who is able to sit down, not physically with people, but be on call with people, letting them know where to place your camera, what video editors to use, and then he'll actually help you edit your own video if that's something that you're interested in doing. We're also helping getting Etsy and other accounts set up, and then helping you develop your experiences so that they can be online, or planning for a reboot once things settle down. So this brings us to the end of our formal program. Here's our information. If you guys, please feel free to reach out to either myself or to Shay, depending on where you are, depending on what you need. And at this time, we will also open it up for any questions. So there is either the Zoom webinar chat that you can ask questions in, or there is a question and answer box as well. So we'll just take a couple moments so that people can ask some questions. And I also just got a chat from my mom, actually. She was asking me about a program called Redbubble. So if you are a painter or a graphic designer that has 2D items, you can sell your designs through a program called Redbubble. It's free to set up. They make and print your designs on everything, whether it's phone cases, pillows, shirts, all of those different things. So Redbubble is an option for those 2D print makers out there. Awesome. So we have a question from Sissy. Is a newsletter the best way to stay in touch with previous customers, or is social media videos the best way?
From my perspective, I would say both are very important. I think the newsletter, obviously they're engaged if they've signed up for that. So having that newsletter on a regular basis, whether that's weekly or every 2 weeks, is important. But also I think that social media aspect is a great way to just keep top of mind. Because if they're following their social and they're just scrolling, it's almost like it's a different type of communication piece, right? So the scrolling is going to be probably high interest, quick, low attention span type product that will drive maybe traffic to the website or just to keep you top of mind. Whereas the newsletter would probably be a little bit more information dense, maybe upcoming events happening, those type of things. So I think just being cautious of what communication styles you're doing for both, but I think both are very important. And then also, if you have anyone that you have a relationship with from your experiences in the past that you just felt, we really connected, or we just had such a great time together, I would also say just, feel free to reach out by email and say, hello, how's it going? Just want to give you an update on stuff we're doing. I just wanted to think about, I was reminded by some photos of, the experience that we did last year and how good it was. And I just hope you're doing well during these challenging times. Something like that will benefit your business and you so much that you'll create a customer for forever, because they will just be blown away that you went out of your way to actually initiate that communication and just to check up that that was going to be the most impactful. So I think, just addressing the needs based on who you're reaching, and then the communication style, whether it's information dense, or if you just want to build interest, or if you want them to read a blog or drive traffic to your website. It's all based on what's needed from the communication.
Absolutely. Awesome. We'll just give a couple more seconds for anybody else who has any questions for us. I'd also like to mention that we will be posting a video of this both on Edmonton Tourism as well as Indigenous Tourism Alberta YouTube pages. And so we'll be sure to share that out. We'll also be posting the slides for those people who don't have the greatest internet access and can't fully watch the video. Sissy asked, Mac, is Facebook Live your favorite of all the platforms for sharing experiences? Again, it depends. It depends. If I was to do a concert that I would want people to pay for or donate money to, I would end up doing probably a platform like Zoom or Jitsi instead, just so that then I would be able to make sure that people would purchase the ticket, then I would send them the link. But for the shows that we've been doing just for general engagement, for keeping our audience engaged, potential visitors who want to come experience our experience engaged, then I really like Facebook. We chose Facebook instead of Instagram just because a lot of our demographic and people who we are trying to reach are through Facebook as well. Mom and I perform for a lot of schools, a lot of older travelers. So we found that Facebook is where we have the most engagement. So that's why we decided to post through Facebook Live.
Is there anything, Mac, that you might provide some value or questions you've heard in the past that you may want to address?
Yes. I think that this obviously is a time where a lot of people are struggling, a lot of people are worried, but I think something that's really amazing is just the amount of support that we have, and the amount of support that we have in Indigenous tourism. And so yeah, we've seen a lot of businesses who don't know if they're going to make it, and that is something that is terrible to see, but there are so many supports out there and people to help you. That's my job. That's Shay's job. We have a whole team at Edmonton Tourism. We have teams at Indigenous Tourism Alberta, your local DMOs. So I think just like my piece of advice for people is if you need help, like just reach out. There is somebody who will be able to assist you during these times, and that even though it's a different way that we're going to be operating, it might be, maybe it will give you time to reshift your business and to maybe find something that really works for your business that you never thought would have before, just from trying something new out. Yeah, so those are kind of my tidbits of advice. And Sissy, yes, I will help you with the graphics piece of making a newsletter. I can do that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important while we go through these challenging times, and especially while we're practicing self-distancing, that we remember that, there is support out there. We're not alone through this process. And, you can reach out to people in your industry, your friends, your support systems, lean on these support systems, because they're the ones that are going to help each other get through this process. And, even just, reaching out to me about a question. If I can't answer it, there's a good chance I know someone who can, right? So it's all about using our network and working together in that front.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for attending. If anybody has any further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Shay or to both of us. And again, we'd like to thank you guys so much for joining our webinar today. And hopefully we were able to provide some advice and some good learnings for you all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming.
Perfect. Oh, I just stopped my thing. See, technology issues, guys. I'll figure out how to turn this off. There we go.
Awesome. I think we're still recording too.
Perfect.